Hello my friends, today we are going to make a ratatouille, that is a French vegetable stew, in our solar oven, the GoSun Fusion. These are the ingredients that we'll need to get started today. Tomatoes. And plenty of them, they will form the base of this ratatouille. A yellow squash and a zucchini. 1 cup of diced sweet onion and 1 red bell pepper. Fresh basil, a few sprigs of thyme, a few cloves of garlic, and a bay leaf. You'll also need tomato paste, 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, some parsley, some olive oil, an eggplant, and some salt and pepper. The first thing we're going to do is deal with our eggplant. So there are certain ways to prepare an eggplant to extract the bitterness and to make sure that it cooks smoothly and has a nice texture. So that's what we're gonna do first. Starting with slicing the eggplants. We'll just take that little end piece off. And we wanna slice these, I'd say about 1/4 inch thick, into rounds. All right, so once you've sliced your eggplant, you wanna lay them out on a tray, like so. If you see any areas that have like this dark brown, you might wanna try and cut that off. It can really affect the flavor and the texture. So we've got our eggplant here, and we're going to liberally salt it on both sides. And then we're gonna let them rest for 45 minutes to an hour. While this eggplant is resting with the salt, we can chop up the rest of the vegetables. Close-up of our eggplant. It's been resting in its salt for about an hour, and you can see all those pools of water that have formed on it. That's all the bitterness and excess moisture coming out of the eggplant, which will make it that much more delectable in our ratatouille. Okay, now that our eggplant has been resting for about an hour, I'm gonna take a nice clean towel and just pat them all dry on both sides. Pat them dry, take off all that salt and water that has accumulated. I'm gonna throw them in there with my zucchini and yellow squash. Okay, so now that we have our eggplant prepared and our zucchini and yellow squash all chopped up, we can start layering our ratatouille in our GoSun oven tray. The first thing I'm gonna put into it is this nice layer of tomatoes, all the tomatoes that we chopped up, finely diced. This was 4 vine-ripe tomatoes and 2 large heirloom tomatoes. We're just gonna spread this out here and add our 1 cup of sweet onions that we diced. And then we're gonna add our 1 red bell pepper, and our 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Okay, to this we're gonna add all of our spices. So we have a few cloves, just about 1 tablespoon of minced garlic here. I'm gonna add that. One teaspoon of parsley. 1 tablespoon of our white wine vinegar. You can also use 1/2 cup of white, like a dry white wine if you prefer, but I find this works just fine. And we'll add here a little bit of salt and pepper. And 2 sprigs of thyme and our 1 bay leaf. And we're just going to gently toss these This is gonna be cooking for at least 2, maybe even 3 hours in the GoSun, slowly cooking and blending all these flavors together. And it's gonna be really good. Okay, so we need to make some space kind of in the center here for where we're going to put our delicious rounds of squash. So we're gonna start layering by taking all of our squash and eggplant and zucchini and just kind of layer them like so. Eggplant, yellow squash, zucchini. Eggplant, yellow squash, zucchini. So we have layered all of our eggplant, yellow squash, and zucchini. Now we're going to take a 1/4 cup of olive oil and just drizzle it all over. Especially make sure it gets on the eggplant. It'll help everything bind together and taste extra delicious. 1/2 teaspoon of salt and sprinkle that on top as well. Remember, we took all the salt off of the eggplant, so don't worry, it's not too much salt, just 1/2 teaspoon. Lastly, I'm going to take 1 little sprig of thyme and sprinkle that on top as well. These are all of our layered vegetables before we pop them into the GoSun Fusion outside. Here we are with our GoSun Fusion ready to start cooking our beautiful ratatouille. This should take about 2 to 3 hours in full sun. Let's see how our ratatouille is doing. It looks amazing, and I think it's about done. While we're waiting for our ratatouille to finish cooking, we can complete the last step of our dish, which is to take 3 basil leaves, 3 pretty big basil leaves, and we're going to slice them up and mix them with some olive oil. So the idea is to slice these as thinly as possible. Really julienne them. And then put them in with the olive oil, 1/4 cup. And maybe stir that around for a second. You want the basil to really flavor that olive oil. And we're gonna use this olive oil to drizzle on top of our finished dish. Oh my God, that smells so good. And this is our finished ratatouille. A beautiful vegetable stew. Just drizzle your ratatouille with a little bit of this basil infused olive oil. And you're ready to eat. Fit for a king or a little mouse. Enjoy.